Welcome to installing the Megatouch ION 2014 into a virtual machine, part 4. Last time we finished finding and bypassing the motherboard checks such that we can get to the point of trying to install the game. However, one of the annoying things is this. We haven't bypassed the touchscreen yet, so unless you have your touchscreen hooked up to your virtual machine somehow, which is possible, we're going to have a hard time actually pressing those buttons. And if you try, you can do it with your mouse, but it takes forever. And you got to get lucky. And then you get another screen that you got to do another one. It's easier because the buttons are bigger. But if you don't press the right button, if you hit the red, it shuts down. So we're just go ahead and bypass this, just like we did with the motherboard check. So let's open up GHIDRA and go back to the setup routine. I labeled it B setup in my GHIDRA database here. And let's figure out where that check is. It's got to be somewhere after that motherboard check, which we've already edited, although we did not edit this in GHIDRA. We manually patched it, so we won't see that we bypassed it. And let's scroll down. And here we are around line 189. You see this, if I var equals 3, go to failure power down. It doesn't actually say failure power down. It just has a number. I labeled that. But this is where, right above that is, you can see the license prompt, where it says the license.txt, it prints it out, and then it has a bunch of buttons you have to press or it powers down, depending on whether it's install, fresh install, or an upgrade, or what have you. So basically where you see this get GUI at line 185 in the decompiler window, or address 1836B in the disassembly window, we want to actually just bypass this whole section down to line 209. So this time we're going to do something a little different. We're going to use GHIDRA to actually patch the instructions ourselves. So we click on the instruction, click on patch instruction, and we're going to make this jump, and then we have to give it the address that we want to jump to, which is going to be all the way down. It's going to be 183C1. Now you can see it says jump continue. We do want to copy those 5 bytes that changed when we patched that instruction. So write down address 1836B and then E951000000. And now we have to actually go and manually patch the binary. We can patch the binary with GHIDRA. We can actually write the changes out, but often when I do that, it creates an invalid binary. So I don't know, I think there's a bug with GHIDRA, or at least in the version I'm using. So we'll just manually patch it by hand. So I'm going to go and find that file. It was in where I extracted the binaries, user local libinstaller.so. And we're going to run the program bless on that as root. Bless is just a hex editor that's free. And then we're going to go to the offset 836B. You can drop the 1 and go ahead and hit the insert button and then overwrite the bytes with the patched bytes. So now we're going to save our file and rebuild that ISO and then upload it to our virtual machine. So now let's start the installer in our virtual machine. And what you can see is we immediately skip the whole license check and then the second thing that you normally have to type. I don't remember what it is. And now it's just telling us that it doesn't know about our hard drive and do we want to continue. And this time it's a lot easier to hit those buttons. You can just click on right click, I think, immediately. And you should already be in your mouse should already be in the green button area. So just right click twice and you should start the install. So here it goes. Now the testing system part is because it didn't like the hard drive, but you can ignore that. And it's going to do some stuff. And it should be done. Oh no, error detected. What is this? Basically, I went through the code and looked where this error occurs, and I couldn't see any reason why it would occur, except that it was doing something with pipes, which is a multi-interprocess communication system. And I figured there's probably a timing problem, and I only set this machine to 1 CPU. So then I went back into the VMware and set it to 2 cores, and that fixed it. I just, on a hunch, I figured, oh, pipes, interprocess communication, they're probably assuming some timing, and that's always a bad thing to assume. So, that worked. So we'll go here into the virtual machine settings and add a core, a CPU core. So it has 2 CPUs now, or 2 cores. And now if we start the whole thing again, it's going to work. Now here we have to change to the second CD, and you got to do this actually really quick because the system will time out and reboot if you don't. So you actually have to switch to the second CD real quick. You got to go to the CD, mount the second CD ISO, and click connect and continue real fast. And it finishes. So it's complete, and we can go ahead and power down. In this case, I'm just going to make sure the CD is not connected and reset the system. And now it should boot into the game, I hope. So it's booting, but oh no, we now have another problem. Basically, the install has been successful, but it's now the game part, the install's done, the game booting now is complaining about a motherboard error. So we've successfully went through the installer, which was the purpose of this, but we're gonna have to figure out how to bypass these checks now. And we'll do that in another video. So in this video, we've bypassed the license checks where it asks you to verify that you accept the license in the next step. And we went through the installer, and then we found out that in VMware, you need 2 cores or it won't work. The installer will crap out in the middle of the install. And then we fixed the cores, put 2 cores in, went through, I showed you how to switch the CDs, and it continued on. The installer part is done. Now to get up to where the game is, we can modify, we'll have to look at modifying the hardware detection on the actual game CDs. Again, the installer is done. Now, there is an exercise for the viewer. I skipped the license checks, and in the other video, we bypassed the hard drive delay. I leave an exercise for you. Try to patch the installer to skip all interactive prompts, at least at the beginning, where it says, hey, you have bad hard drive. Are you sure you want to continue? Go ahead and try to figure out how to patch it to skip that. It's going to be basically the same technique that I used to bypass the license checks.